Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. You are tuning in to episode 44, and I have something really special for you today. I'm going to share with you something that will radically transform your relationship to the evil, awful, scary word selling in literally under 10 minutes. P.S. I have created a PDF to accompany this training called 21 Ways to Follow Up with Clients Without Being Salesy. You can grab your copy by sending me a DM on Instagram. Just type in sales, or you can send me a nice note too. That works. And let me know that you're listening to the podcast. I would so love that. So listen, I have to admit, I've always had a positive relationship with sales. I started my first business when I was 12 years old. My mom enrolled me in a bow making class. And from there, I became the queen of making bows. I made them for wreaths, for Christmas trees, for packages, you name it. I started gift wrapping holiday packages and charged $350 per gift. That was a lot of money when I was 12 years old, let me tell you. And I would show up at the client's house and in a half day bang out all their gift wrapping, usually banking a good $75 a pop or more. This was typically Christmas time, FYI. And that was more money than I knew what to do with. But I realized how valuable it was for overworked, exhausted, holiday spent moms who had tapped out after doing all of the shopping. The last thing they wanted to do was sit and wrap gifts, let me tell you. And boy, do I understand that. So the typical Saturday wrap day looked like me sitting in front of the TV, watching Christmas movies while my client baked cookies and sipped hot toddies. Win-win, right? So maybe this was the genesis of my love for sales as my sales positions evolved. Eventually to waiting tables, to selling blood glucose test strips, to aesthetic devices. I always knew that the products or services I had to offer were helping people. So it was super interesting for me when I started working with aesthetic practices and saw how uncomfortable so many providers and especially their teams were with the selling process. I have come to learn that most of the time when a client tells me, quote unquote, my team needs to get stronger at selling, the root of the problem is usually one of two things, neither of which, by the way, have to do with the team's ability to sell. One is that the practice hasn't developed what I call an RMP, a relationship marketing process that's focused on a strong sales ecosystem. So that would include 6 key components: patient acquisition, patient nurturing, conversion, retention, upsells, and referrals. And if you want to learn more about this process, go back to episode 10, The Power of Patient Retention, get all the insight on this. So number one, root of the problem with team does not feel totally comfortable selling, doesn't want to sell, needs to get stronger at selling. There's actually systems that are disjointed in terms of basically nurturing a client to a point where they're ready to convert, to buy, and et cetera. Okay. Number two is that the employee or owner, for that matter, has a bitter taste in their mouth about sales. 9 times out of 10, when I do staff trainings, I'll ask, what does sales mean to you? And what do you hear? The analogy of the greasy car salesman, right? Like, oh, it sounds like a used car salesman. So in the spirit of addressing this wildly common issue, I wanted to share a very powerful analogy with you that just might transform the relationship that you have to selling in your practice. I'm going to try to keep this really short and to the point. Play this for your team. This will be transformative, okay? So Here's the analogy. Do you remember, let's put it that way, you were thinking about, or when you got proposed to and you were getting ready to get married and you were looking for a bridal gown, okay? So if you're listening to this and you're married, you probably already went through this process. If you're not, you may have been a bridesmaid. If you're a dude, you may have been a part of the process somehow with a family member or perhaps your own wife, okay? So it's a big deal, right? For most women, getting that gown is a really big deal. I remember I was like clipping magazine articles, tearing out pictures, putting a vision board together. I was looking at fabrics. I was like screenshotting images on Instagram, on social media. I was talking about it all the time. Like I was seeing myself. I was visualizing myself in this gown. And this gown, it wasn't even about the gown, and it wasn't even about the wedding. It was about the way I was going to feel in that gown. It was the way that I was going to transform into this supernatural princess, whatever my idea was at the time. And it was just going to be me and the spotlight, and I was going to become somebody that I wanted to be. Okay. So imagine the ramp up, right? Like the excitement of finally convincing myself that I'm worth this dress, right? Making the appointment at the bridal boutique, doing all my research, getting all my girls together and getting ready to go get this gown, park the car, right? Like walk up, open the door, and I'm like, hello, I'm here. Like nobody says anything. It's crickets. And I'm looking around. There's thousands of gowns. There's veils, there's all the things, but there's nobody there. And I'm like, what the heck, right? Can you imagine if you were going to buy your gown and just there wasn't somebody there to guide you through that process? You had worked yourself up, ready to get this gown, and you were so excited for the opportunity. And then it was like, oh, well, go ahead and try some gowns on, go for it. Right? No, I wanted a guide. I want someone to show me what is possible for me. I want someone to look at me and say, you are worthy. You are worth this, Kaylee. Okay. All right. Hang on with me, guys. All right. So why am I telling you that this analogy will transform your relationship with selling and your team's relationship to becoming a guide for patients? Let me explain, right? When you get a call from somebody who has already gone through the process of evaluating and determining that they want to come to you as a provider, they have already gone through this elimination process. They've already, think about the amount of time they probably spent pumping themselves up, looking in the mirror, deciding that they were worth it, really getting the courage to make the call. And then they call you and it's like, ring, ring, like, hello, how can I help you? Well, I'm interested in Botox. Okay, great. When do you want to come in? Right? It's like this transactional conversation. Well, your team, it's not that they need better sales skills, although that's helpful too, but they need to understand what their role is. Their role isn't just to answer the phone. Right? As a provider, your role isn't to just do what the patient tells you to do. I could order a bridal gown online. I could walk in and pick a bridal gown out, or I could go to a random boutique and just snatch what I want. No, I don't want that. I want someone to take control. I want someone to let me look in the mirror and visualize and see my future self, right? That's what I need. I need a guide, right? Imagine a patient that's sitting there in your chair and you're like worried about, well, this costs that much. This isn't, maybe next time you can get that. It's like saying, well, next time you can get the veil. Next time you can get the extra lace at the bottom, right? And what the patient wants is they want you to tell them, here's what's going to help you accomplish that goal. Here is what I can do for you to help you achieve a desired outcome. Here's your lace. Here's your tiara. Here's your all the things, right? Here's your fancy shoes. Like, I want them to make me believe in myself and believe that I'm worth it. And if your team understands that that is their role is to be a guide, to educate the patient on what's available to them, to handhold them, to credential the practice, to credential the providers, to be an ambassador of the practice, to talk about all the things available to them, because that's what that patient wants and needs. They're coming to you as the expert. Just like when I was looking for my bridal gown and you were looking for your bridal gown, right? You wanted a guide. You wanted somebody that was going to show you how to accomplish that problem you had, or how to get to that dream feeling, to become that dream person that you wanted to be and you know that you could become. Okay. So I wanted to share that analogy with you because I just did, like I have in a couple trainings recently, and it's just so powerful to me to think about that versus the used car salesman, like, here's a discount here. How about this? How about that? Right? No, instead, I'll be your guide. I'm going to show you all the things available to you, and here's how I can help you accomplish your dream, right? So think about that patient. That patient is worthy of coming to somebody who's going to show them everything that's available to them, put them on a plan, give them a long-term care plan, put them on a treatment program, add bundled procedures, add layers, add options, right? Give them the desired full outcome. And I think if your team understands this concept, they will have a perception, a shifted and transformative perception around what selling really is, so that you can take care of those precious patients who have gone out of their way to call you. The ones who have already come in for treatments, they should be getting calls about all the other things that you guys have available. So anywho, I just wanted to share that with you. I was really excited about that analogy, and I'm so excited about sales. I think that it is really the gateway to adding value, bringing value to people, and serving and sharing the things that we have that are available to them. So anyway, share this with your team. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you, or I will hear you, or you will hear me, I should say, on the next episode of the Fierce Factor podcast. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.